Grow a business that can run without you. This is part 3 of 3. What I'm looking to do in these 3 episodes is provide an entrepreneur or business owner with some very practical steps that they can take to grow a business that can ultimately run without them, which I think is the goal and objective of many entrepreneurs and business owners. And the fact that you're even watching this episode and you are an entrepreneur or a business owner means you are already part of the winner's circle, because getting to a point where you can even consider growing a business that runs without you means you would have had to have already made it through a couple of stages. You would have had to start your business. You would have had to have figured out how to make some money. You would have figured out how to build a team. All of those things at every step along the way, there are entrepreneurs and business owners that don't make it. So if you're watching this episode, I tip my hat to you because it's not easy to get here. But now that you are here, let's break down the 3 things that I've been talking about. One is, in episode 1, I talked about you have to replace yourself. And so instead of doing 10 things at 10% and getting a 10% result, figure out how to add people to your team that can do the work that you're doing so that you don't need to spend 80 hours a week, 60 hours a week covering over all of the gaps in your business. Get people to do that. And to do that, you have to grow your top line, you have to maintain your margins, and make sure that you can generate additional revenue and profit to pay for those people or person, if that's all it takes to replace you. Secondly, in episode number 2, we talked about empowering your team. So it's not just saying, hey, I'm going to hire you, do a job, and if you don't do it, I'm going to fire you. It's, hey, my objective is to grow a business that can run without me. To do that, I got to build a team. You are part of this team. I'm looking to you to help me do that. So how can I help you get there? How can I help you contribute to what we're all working towards? So you got to replace yourself, you got to empower your team. And then the next step, this is the fun one, is to become an investor. And by investor, I don't mean writing big fat checks into startups and venture capital, although that might be what you want. When I say investor, the context I'm using it in is we all have a limited amount of time. Entrepreneurs and business owners have just as much time as everybody else. And so because you have a limited amount of time, you have to be able to invest it in a way that it counts, that it's meaningful, but ultimately provides a return. And so every year, my wife and I usually do a calculation that sounds something like this. We look at our P&L, we look at the money we brought in, we divide it by the number of hours we think we worked. We take a pretty fair shot at it. We certainly work more than 40 hours, but we're not working 160 hours a week. And we come up with like an hourly rate. And every year we're just trying to make that rate go higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And so if you're looking to grow a business that can run without you, you have to know what your hourly rate is. And then you have to have some benchmarks around how do I get a higher hourly rate. Now, I measure it on hourly rate. Some people might measure it by their dividends. Some people might measure it by their retained earnings. Some people might measure it just by how much money's in their checking account. Whatever your measurement is of how well you are spending your time and the return that it is getting you, it needs to be done, because becoming an investor, part of growing a business that can run without you, so that you can have time, that you can use your time to do more productive things. And for me, more productive things looks like finding either other businesses that I can take my experience, my skills, maybe some services and products from my other businesses and put them into a position to be leveraged to get an overall better result on my time. So instead of spending 10 hours in one business, I can spend 10 hours across 3 businesses that are all very similar in the type of customer they talk to and the type of market they work in, and I can get some additional leverage off of that. I can invest my time in my team. So in the last episode, I talked about the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners being entrepreneurs and business owners that ask the question, what can I be doing to help you? How can I help you get further down your path? Because the truth is, if I can make you successful, by default, I will be successful. So becoming an investor can mean how you invest your time. Becoming an investor can mean how you invest your money and where you put that money. And the third piece is, how do you put both of them together, your time plus your money, to get you personally a better overall result than what you were getting in the past. The reason we all invest is because we want to see something grow. We want to see that whatever our input is, time or money, that we are able to get more than what we are inputting back. And so I think of it something like this. My wife, Lisa, she's been homeschooling for 12 years. We have our first son who is now graduated. And I think to myself, like, there's the perfect example of what it means to be an investor in the context that I'm talking about in this episode. She, we wrote some money, or we wrote a check to pay for like school books and courses. And there was a monetary investment that needed to be made into my son's life. I have 5 kids, by the way. Sorry, not 10, 5 kids. So there was money that had to be invested into each of our children's lives. But my eldest son, he's now done. He's graduated. He's going to make it on to the next stage of his life. But for 12 years, Lisa invested her time into my son. And for every minute that she spent investing in his life, he probably is going to turn that into 2 or 3 minutes of value somewhere down the road that we may never even be able to realize or understand. In your business, it's the same thing. Everyone on your team requires a certain amount of time to get to a place where they are going to be productive. And you can let that be drawn out. So, if there are 80 hours worth of knowledge that they need in order to be productive, you can just let those 80 hours come together however they come together. Or you can be intentional about saying, you know what, if I helped you, those 80 hours of learnings that you would have to do on your own, we can probably cut them in half if I took my time and invested it with you. And so once you've replaced yourself, once you've empowered your team, the next step is to become an investor. And that can be an investor in terms of your time. It can be an investor in terms of your money. And the ultimate goal is to try and get a larger result compared to what you are putting in. So in that example of 80 hours, if you put your 40 hours in, it means that the learning curve for your staff went from 80 hours to 40 hours, and that 40 hours that they were going to spend learning can now be spent doing. That means accelerate your revenue a little quicker, probably realize on some cash a little bit quicker, maybe service a greater number of customers faster. So that's the whole time piece. But then there's also the money piece. And as I said earlier, I look to invest in other businesses that leverage my knowledge and my skill set so that if I get involved, I can make things go really fast. And kind of the first example is the first time I got involved in turning around a company, I would guess it probably took, I think it took close to like 12 or 18 months. And part of it was my level of understanding and experience. Certainly a lack of confidence had a lot to do with it. But in the last company that I was a part of, where I turned it around, so I wasn't an owner, I was there on a contract basis. Within the first 30 days, I was able to rewrite all the internal systems. Personally, I actually coded all of it because I just understood it. The next thing I was able to do was do an entire accounting system changeover, because the accounting system that this particular organization was using was brutal, wasn't even correct, didn't have the functionality that a company today needs. And then by the last 90 days, we had already hit the ground running with a sales and marketing plan that was watching us consistently produce results every week. So the company was kind of up and down, up and down, up and down, as a typical small business is with their sales and marketing. But within 90 days, I was able to help make that happen. And so the point is, I went from 18 months turning around a business to honestly within 90 days having a business turned around and having it positioned to not only be profitable, but to grow without me. And that was because over the last decade, I have had to work in the trenches, much like you in your business, to figure out what does it take? What does it take to do this accounting work properly? What does it take to do to be really strong operationally? What does it mean to be a great at sales and great at marketing? Now, I'm not an expert in any of these things, but I do know what it means to hire the right people, give them the resources that they need so that they can run. And so when I'm looking to invest in a business, I'm trying to figure out what business can I invest in where my knowledge, my experience can be put to use very, very fast to get us a better result really quickly, because that's the best return for me. And then there's like a different kind of investor you can be as well, where depending on your age and stage of life, if you don't want to invest your time anymore, and you don't really want to invest in other businesses because you don't want the headache, well, then you just become a straight up investor. Maybe you take your money, you put it in the stock market. I know many entrepreneurs and small business owners that end up becoming lenders. So they'll do second mortgages, they'll do business loans, they'll do receivables financing. So they use their business and the money that comes out of their business to fund market investing opportunities. And some of them will buy, I know one individual who will flip 2 or 3 houses a year. So he has a business It runs without him, not in terms of he's never there, but his team does a much better job running his business than he could ever do. So he is there to set the mandate, to answer difficult questions, to help make strategic decisions, to make sure that the resources are there that the business needs to get to where they're going. But then he goes and he flips properties because he just personally enjoys it. So the business that he has only requires a certain amount of CapEx every year, which means whatever profits they earn, he already knows how much he has to put back in. And then he can take the rest and he can go and do something else with it. And so if you want to grow a business that can run without you, you got to replace yourself. You have to empower your team. And then that opens the door for you becoming an investor. And what I have found, believe it or not, now that you've made it all the way through episode 3, is if you start with today's episode, I would like to be an investor. If I had a team running my business better than me, what would I do with my time? If you can answer that question, then you work backwards into saying, okay, then I have to empower my team. As I empower my team, I'm going to discover there are very obvious places I need to get out of the way. And so that works into replacing myself. So whether you go forwards or backwards, meaning replace yourself, empower your team, become an investor, or you go the other way and say, I want to become an investor, therefore I'm going to empower my team, and that will show me how to replace myself. Whichever way you do this, I think these 3 takeaways are the easiest way to frame how to get yourself into position to grow a business that can run without you. So I hope you found this episode plus the other ones really helpful. So make sure to go and watch episode 2, make sure to watch episode 1. Or if you're on the podcast, listen to the previous episode and the first episode. Make sure to leave a comment, rate, review, but most importantly, reach out to me. Let's have a chat. I am an entrepreneur. You hear me talking every day. I love business owners. I love entrepreneurs. I think it's what makes the world go round. I realize not everyone is cut out to be one. And so when I get the opportunity to connect with one, it's a real treat. And so make sure to reach out to me. We can have a 10-15 minute quick chat. If there's something I can do to help you out, I would love to be able to do that. I don't know everything, but I know a few things, and I'm always happy to share my learnings, and I'd love to hear myself talk as well. So if you just need someone, if you just want to give me a problem and hear me ramble on about it, I'd be happy to help you. So this has been wonderful. These 3 episodes, I think, if taken together, should really help you put some structure around what your long-term plans are for your business, and then some very specific but practical steps that you can take to get there. So I trust that you found this helpful, and make sure to catch the next episode that I put together.